So the question Rob from our back office gave us how that he gets a lot, how to get married to a foreigner and keep it in the private and still get a green card. Well, the foreigner can get a green card on her own, and she can do any number of things. A couple things is get a job, start a corporation, be proficient, get a social, in the private, obviously reserving rights, different things like that. But getting married in the private is equal footing in the law, in Black's law, to a public side marriage, meaning we have, and you were just talking to him, Rob, somebody from Australia who is got a marriage in Australia. It's like a common law type marriage, but they're accepting it here, showing that they've predated and been married for a certain period of time. The questions that we have to deal with is not so much how do you make it all work in the private, is how do you align yourself to continue to keep your God-given unalienable rights while applying through these circumstances where you might have to go get an actual marriage license, quote unquote, or you might have to get certain things done. Because like you got to prove, like if you're going to be sponsoring somebody and helping them get their nationality status because you're a U.S. citizen, there's certain things you got to do. Having a year of taxes to show, different good standing type of things, but you can do all of that stuff while retaining your God-given unalienable rights. And so that's just a misconception that, it's like when the last returns I filed, I crossed out the entire bottom section of the tax return because I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm not a taxpayer. I'm not a tax protester. In their definitions and legal terms. And so I can't attest to those things. And, you just have to know how to reserve your rights so that in the event they want to come back and show you, you can say, no, I didn't sign it the way you thought. I did a full reservation of my rights and filed a return for the registered organization. If you notice, I signed with the non-assumption under my signature. You've accepted it, and it's the way that it is. There's no contract. And if you notice, I crossed out U.S. citizen, I crossed out U.S. person because those things don't apply to a state citizen. And if you notice, I did a full removal of my signature on all these docs. I just needed to comply for that period of time. If you also notice, I did the declaration of status and I did a revocation of election, a total of like 9 letters, three actual letters with 3 notices of non-response with opportunities to cure, and then 3 certificates of default. See, our letters are so powerful that they will leave you alone. They can't force citizenship. So like every trust indenture, because people are worried about getting a social, people are worried about these elements of contracting. And I say, I got you. Why don't you just fill the trust out appropriately and don't be the trustee? Okay, just fill the trust out appropriately. Make yourself the beneficial interest and don't be the trustee. And there's contractually ways to get that accomplished up front and get the benefit of whatever you're trying to get through the application. In that color of law where you may get brought into court under a jurisdictional whatever for a warrant or for something you screwed up on down the road, you can go back and look at and show that these applications you've covered your butt. So let's stop worrying about how to scoot around in common law through these maybe types of marriages. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm going to find some case sites on marriages that we might be able to help our friends with from Australia, where they don't have to have a legal, well, they don't, because they're accepting their one from Australia, but are in the future where we have people that want to get married. Because we have people that are trying to figure out how to get people into this country and get them married without making them, quote unquote, under the jurisdiction. And those are all real things to take into consideration. But if you read Black's law, common law marriage has an equal footing in court to a legal marriage. And so how is it that the Supreme Court's ruled one way and naturalization is ruled a different way? I think what we need to find because in every application, you will find a series of lies that overlay the truth behind in public law. Like, here's the truth. This is Bouvier's. This is pulling the dictionary case sites for everything from Supreme Court rulings and giving those words definitions. So, like, for example, I'm going into a school and I'm applying for school, and they're saying I need to have X, Y, Z proof of immunizations or shots. And I'm saying no religious exemption. And they're saying, no, you can't do that. And I say, okay. So I went to the state law to look at how I get an exemption. And it was not simply a doctor. I went to a chiropractor, and they're saying on their application, it said DOMD, and it didn't have DC, it didn't have chiropractic. And so they left out 100 different designations of doctors on this application to make sure you were going to a doctor to get the exemption needed for the immunizations or the coming vaccines. And so I went to the state of California, and I determined that it's a doctor. It doesn't make a designation on the law. And so I printed the law, I crossed out MD, and I put DC, and I put the exemption behind it, and I threw it in their lap, and I explained to them the law, and I said, you got to correct this application. They said it's a state application. I'm like, oh, it's crazy. The state would lie to the people about what the public law is. So we just had another one today where I said, go look at the public law. I guarantee it doesn't say that on the public law side. It probably says something totally different. So go find the public law and find your truth, because that's the truth of what that application should be attesting to. So when we're, maybe as a common law marriage, we should have the right to utilize that to bring somebody in and have them naturalized. The bigger question is, how do you get somebody naturalized into a state and not into the United States? And that's a whole nother element. But we're still taking naturalized people and making them state citizens. So it really doesn't matter to me. But I know, long-winded answer.